Hi, can you all hear me? Wow, okay. 7 people. Hi, let me know if you can hear me. It's been a while since I opened this program, so. Okay, awesome. It's currently 8:30 p.m. where I am. And I wanted to put on a stream because it's been a really long time since I did a stream. I think maybe, has it been a month? Or at least a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks since I last did a stream. Yeah. I actually wanted to commit to doing weekly streams, but I realized that, yeah, I wasn't really able to commit to that schedule. Um, yeah, but I am trying to still figure out how exactly I want to develop my content. Yeah, so far what's been comfortable has been the video essays and sort of like booktube related formats. Still figuring out how I can deliver myself and my ideas in something that challenges me a little bit more. Yeah. But how is everyone? I think it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of you, and this is a completely spontaneous live because so many of you commented on my community post wanting more live streams. So this is like intermediate before I can come up with more concrete ideas to cover in my live streams. But actually, what do you all expect out of live streams? I kind of feel like a lot of live streamers kind of just chill for like a really long time, and I wonder whether that's actually interesting for a lot of people. I'm not too sure. Okay, it might take a while for more people to come in. Uh, so I've been developing a lot of acne on my skin lately as well, so I should stop picking at it. But because I've been wearing a mask while preparing coffee, and it's not a great combination when I'm like sweating. I'm not really sweating, that's not the case, but rather there's a lot of grime uh, and all that comes with shift work. Um, and then with the mask and all that, it just kind of contributes to a lot of acne. So nowadays I don't feel super comfortable having HD cameras on my face. I guess that's the pitfall when it comes to like making content. Like having your face be seen is like a huge bummer sometimes because I get acne pretty often. And I refuse to use like harsh chemicals because, first of all, like that's kind of, those chemicals are oftentimes very dodgy. um, and natural solutions, like they take time to work. So oftentimes I'm just kind of stuck with I'm kind of stuck with just like bad skin sometimes. Hi. Yeah, video essays. I think a lot of people, I guess it's a preference thing. I know a lot of people enjoy my video essays, but I also kind of think my video essays are quite rambly and not very structured, because oftentimes I try to frame them as a casual ramble rather than something that's very, I guess, formal, because I don't believe myself as someone that has that kind of formal authority to talk about a lot of these ideas. Oftentimes I'm talking from the perspective of someone who's also still learning and trying to digest and re-articulate these ideas in my own way. Skin life. Oh, interesting. Okay. Thanks for the recommendation. And Rand, is that how you pronounce it? And Rand. Let me see if I ever read Ayn Rand before. Ayn Rand. No, I've not read Ayn Rand before. She writes philosophy. I've literally never seen these titles before. A philosophical system called objectivism. Interesting. I don't know. It doesn't sound very much the kinds of ideas I'm interested in. Yeah, I find it really hard to read philosophy. Okay, it's gonna be very hard to I guess it's gonna be very hard to read everything that Ayn Rand has written in a Wikipedia article, but sounds pretty interesting. I see. Conservative and libertarian politics. Okay, honestly, I'm not very well versed in like US politics. I don't really keep up to date with conservative, left-leaning. These are terms that I am not familiar with. Yeah. Have I read Communist Manifesto? Yes, I have. It was actually part of my common curriculum back in my undergraduate days. Umberto Eco. Y'all are really coming with all these authors. Medieval historian. Interesting. What does he write about? There's like no there's no general description. What does Umberto Eco usually write about? Novels of they're humorous but also intellectual. Interesting. Medieval mystery books. is that a good way of describing his writing? Sounds interesting. This is definitely not a genre that I've read before. but I will be very interested. I realize I don't really read a lot of like, I think he's from Italy. I don't think I've read a lot of like Italian works. So this is interesting. Yeah. Has anyone else read Umberto Eco? Okay, his most famous novel is called The Name of the Rose. It's a historical murder mystery set in an Italian monastery in the year 1327. That sounds really cool. You know, I think just the other day I was watching this video on YouTube, and this video claimed that we were going through the second medieval age, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Let me try and find the video. A lot of you are asking me about books I've read. Why are you so interested in the books that I've read? Oh, okay. Empire Trilogy. By Raymond by Michael Hard. I'm just like googling things right now. Michael Hard. Okay, this looks really interesting. So this book called Empire Trilogy by Michael Hart and Antonio Negri, it's they call themselves post-Marxist philosophers, and it was written in the mid-1990s about a theory that theorizes a transition from imperialism to a postmodern construct called the empire. So the enemy is no longer ideological or national, but be understood as a kind of criminal, is a terrorist. The conflict between nations made irrelevant. Like, it is quite vague. Wait, so the empire could take the form of like a transnational body or an oligarchy. Okay, that seems pretty likely. So the empire is total, and the identity of the purposes. Okay, this sounds interesting. Well, nice. Sorry. Yeah, interesting. It's part of the anti-globalization movement. Autonomism. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Techno-feudalism is a real scary thought to have. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds really scary. Let me see if I can show you what I am looking at. Doesn't work. Does this work? This is what I'm looking at right now. Yes, I'm looking at Wikipedia. I hope that's fine. So I came from this book. There's not a lot of information on it though. Interesting. And I do kind of see the reaction though, that like what is the natural transition after imperialism? What kind of form would it take? I guess like nowadays I am thinking a lot about like hierarchy, because even today as we try to fight for like I guess more of a collective and socialist approach to this, and I guess that's a question I always have, and I'm not too sure how to answer that because I really don't have the answers for that. And I know there's this book called Caste, and I think it might kind of speak to that hierarchy thing. I can find it. This book. I haven't had the chance to read it yet, but I know that it became a really popular book. Has anyone read this book before? Oh wait, what? It's a film adaptation. Everything has a film adaptation nowadays. All right. Okay, that's enough book scrolling. Thanks for the recommendations though. I think those are... I'm still sort of dipping my toes into like political theory, economic theory as well, but it's definitely not an area that I'm like the most comfortable in. Yeah. Universal basic income. I honestly don't know the specifics of how it would work. This is something I'm still trying to figure out. But I do think that if it's probably true, but I don't have the numbers for it. If it's true that the economy as it is can produce and distribute sufficiently for everyone without the need for human labor, then it naturally follows that a basic form of subsistence should be provided for everyone. Because because if we are living in a world where your labor does not have, you know, you don't need to input your labor for extra productivity, then I do think that there is a responsibility to make sure that everyone is able to live a good life within the constraints of what we have today. So the fact is that because we live in cities and we live in urban dwellings, where so much of our basic necessities actually depends on having money and spending money, then I think a short-term solution for having basic income for people as we transition to much more of a healthier, like much more of like a being able to actually live off the land and all that, and not to have your livelihood so much dependent on the amount of money you can spend, then I personally think that universal basic income can be one of those mitigating policies. But I don't know how it would apply in the universal way. Like, what does universal mean? And what does basic constitute? I feel like, in theory, this idea sounds really good. But I kind of feel like, I wonder how it would pan out. And I don't have the practical, I guess the practicals of how it would pan out. Yeah. But from gut instinct, I kind of feel like it makes sense if like our economies are productive enough for them to be able to provide us like a good standard of living without the addition of human labor, then why not consider something more radical like universal basic income? Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty legitimate critique that, aren't you just giving rich people more money? But I kind of feel like when you have that argument, to me, I feel like the 300, like if 300 or $500 more per month, if you're selling with that small amount, it matters a lot for households who are food insecure or people who can't pay their rent who are living paycheck to paycheck. I feel like it takes a huge burden off such a huge proportion of people that perhaps like that is more of a pressing issue as compared to whether the wealthy would take advantage of that. And then maybe then we have to consider how do we then regulate rich people benefiting off this policy. Yeah, but I just kind of feel like we oftentimes talk more about how the wealthy might exploit things, and that kind of just brings people, that kind of just like pulls people back from actually implementing a lot of these things that might actually help people on the ground a lot more. But I think the worry is valid. I can see that happening in Singapore a lot. Yeah. Braiding Sweetgrass is a really good book. I really, really enjoy the writing, and I love how it's such a really like melodious blend of science and like ecological writing. Yeah. Thanks for so these glasses I actually got them from optometrist, is that how you pronounce it? A glasses shop that has been running for like I think a few generations already. And they have a lot of vintage glasses, but these were designed by the shop owner himself. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can. This is very interesting. We are now talking about economics in the chat, and I kind of really want to do like a few videos on economics, but obviously from a very amateur perspective, because I feel like I'm lacking so much knowledge and like insight into economics, but I feel like that's so important for us to understand and to bring that knowledge with us. um and I'm glad that nowadays more and more people are interested in like economics, because I remember reading this in a book before. I think maybe it was a book on GDP, but it was written by and is written by an economics journalist who was talking about how economics itself has been made so um like intelligible to mainstream people as a way to justify a lot of the kind of ridiculous policies that economists wanted to push for. And I remember reading that somewhere, and I remember like thinking like, yeah, you know, when I try to learn about economics, it's like so freaking scary and intimidating. And there's all these like scares that are being pushed on mainstream media all the time, how numbers, like glaring numbers everywhere, and how there's always like panels of experts telling you what you should think about the market. And as I reflect upon it, I mean, in the end, I realized that the people who are experts on the panel, they're obviously people with different interests, and not say that they're not objective or rational, but their perspective is definitely one that has kind of like the interest of people who are already benefiting from the system, and they're kind of lobbying on mainstream media for people to just follow along and follow suit. And I think that's something that has been super salient to me, like this realization, seeing the TV with all these news and all this like exposure to economics. It's being framed in such far away, yeah, it's being phrased as such like a, like, this is not for everyday people, this is only for people who do real money sort of situation. So I'm still trying to demystify economics for myself. I think that's kind of how I approach it. Education loans and higher education system in the West today. So yeah, I mean, just a disclaimer again, I really don't think that my opinions on the West are gonna be the most, I don't know, concrete. I did study a bit about education systems across different societies, and I kind of get the sense that, yeah, I do think that higher education is facing a bit of a crisis when it comes to like, yeah, like funding and finance, and the way that it's so intricately tied to all these things that are not about education, but about like, yeah, like about employability, but also about consolidating power and all these things. So I do think that generally across the board, higher education has seen better days. I mean, just in my own context, the university that I graduated from is closed down because of financial issues supposedly, but it's up for interpretation whether there are other agendas at play. But I feel like this is pretty common for a lot of educational institutes around the world. Yeah, I think the education loan thing is kind of crazy in the US. I think to be that much in debt upon graduation is crazy. I would feel extremely frustrated and extremely trapped. Yeah, I just feel like it kind of stacks a lot of odds against younger people today. I kind of feel like adequate pay. Yeah, you know, I don't know. I kind of feel I'm using a lot of words today, but isn't it kind of crazy how like jobs just don't really pay? I was just thinking about this, and I've been relief teaching for a bit previously, but that arrangement ended, and the school kind of asked me to consider doing a couple more months with them as a relief teacher. But it's a fixed rate per day, so I think within a month I usually would earn less than 2K doing relief teaching. But the workload is actually quite a lot, and there's no way that they can pay me higher because it's a employment scheme that's not under their control. And so I kind of feel like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that jobs on average now expect you to work so much more than they pay you for. And even when I am trying to job hunt, because I'm also in the process of figuring out if I want to try doing full-time work again, and trying to figure out my next plans for the year ahead. And I realized like there's no way I can find a job in Singapore that, pays decently but also gives me a very fixed timing of clocking off at 5 or 6 every day, and being able to work from home. So yeah, I guess I'm still searching, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my next steps are. Yeah. It's kind of crazy though. I feel like the oil wealth system it feels really precarious to me, but yeah. Yeah, Ha Jun Chang, I think is pretty great. I think I was reading one of his books. I think something about the things they don't tell you, 23 things they don't tell you about capitalism. Hi, Vina. Thanks for joining in. It's okay, you didn't miss much. Am I still working as a barista? Yes, I am. I'm working part-time as a barista, 3 days a week. It's been fun, very enjoyable, but the hours are kind of longer than previously, and the workload is a lot greater as well. So that's why I am kind of like considering if I should, yeah, figure something else out. But working as a barista is kind of fun. There was someone that watches my videos who saw me at work, and she was like, "Oh, are you Nat? And do you make videos on YouTube?" And I said yes, and I was like super shocked because I was wearing a mask and I was just behind the counter, so I didn't think anyone would recognize me, but this person did. And that was kind of cool, and interesting. Kind of shocked. I mean, I honestly didn't think anyone would watch my videos here in Singapore. Really not, because I kind of feel like my audience is mostly international audiences. Yeah. Yeah, so my schedule has been super erratic. Yeah, I feel like I've been kind of like falling out of a routine for a long time. Ever since I started my teaching gig. Before that, I had a pretty good rhythm. I was publishing videos every week, and I was pretty much in tip-top like physical and mental condition. But I think ever since I started the teaching thing, my mental energy was super drained, although it was actually really fulfilling. I think that teaching as a job is, I can understand why it's such a vocational job, in a sense that it is quite inherently fulfilling to follow people and follow like young people in a progress sort of way, to see their growth and to see their improvement. That in itself is very fulfilling, but obviously that wasn't enough for me to be like, yeah, I can do this full time, with all these other factors involved. And I think everyone pretty much knows that the state of teachers, in a lot of places, isn't so great. And so that kind of held me back. I think being a teacher in Singapore is notoriously known for its like severe workload, extreme burnout, and all that, even though our supposed educational results are like great. But there's a lot of things that are beneath the surface that is not obviously published by mainstream media. I think everyone knows this by now, but yeah. So that kind of threw me into a loop, and so my rhythm was kind of lost, and now I'm still trying to figure out my rhythm back. It might take me a while. I think it might take me another month to really sort of sit down, really get into the groove again, and to plan my content, and to get back to publishing more frequently, because like to me, having a routine of making videos every week was really helpful for myself. That was like, it started as like a lockdown project, making videos, and it gave me a lot of like structure in what I want to produce, and also gave me a lot of like creative energy. Like a lot of my creative energies could be expressed in this way. I know I'm not being very creative with like video editing and all that, but I do think it kind of fulfilled the kind of articulation potential I had, like just staying within me. so I think for me, it's kind of like trying to get back into the groove. And I know a lot of you have commented telling me not to feel pressured about making content, and yeah, I really appreciate those comments. I think definitely about a few months back, I felt this pressure to always be producing videos, and I think a lot of people know by now that a lot of social media algorithms prioritize consistent content. And so I was pumping up a lot of content for my channel as well as for my social media pages, my TikTok, my Instagram. I was doing a lot of content, and it was fun in the first month. I was doing really well. I was getting quite a lot of attention, and I had a lot of ideas to express. But I think I read this somewhere, I think in some random book that I saw in the library, just browsing, and it was about creative jobs. And there was this artist that talked about how the role of an artist or a creative was kind of similar to that of an athlete. You have a season when you're really productive, and you're making a lot of money, you're getting a lot of attention, you're just making a lot, and people are appreciating you. But there are also a lot of lull seasons where you're just training for that productive season, and that lull period can be a really long time. But that's just how like creative work is like. You don't stay consistently creative like all the time. Rather, there are seasons where you have a lot of inspiration, a lot of creativity, and then there are some lull periods where you just have to keep in the groove, keep in the rhythm, and prepare yourself for the next season to come. So I kind of feel like that's where I am right now, that I'm not in a season of like great inspiration or creativity, but I'm learning to let go of the pressure to be in that stage all the time, but to also practice enough discipline to keep myself like familiar with my tools, which is I guess, content creating, and also to kind of always be in conversation with myself and also with everyone. So that's what I'm prioritizing now. Not so-called like making content all the time, but uh, being familiar. I think that's kind of the direction that I want to take. So in the USA there's an 80% turnover rate in the first 3 years of teaching. I mean, that's not surprising at all. I wouldn't be surprised. But in Singapore, if you're training to be a teacher, you are kind of there is a bond that you have to serve. I think the bond is like 3 years, so you can't even quit your job if you're being trained to be a teacher. So if you're willing to break the bond and pay the fees of breaking the bond, then sure. But a lot of people stay in these occupations because they are bonded to government, unfortunately. How young do you feel students should be exposed to the ideas that you're now interested in and the levels of information you are at? This is a really good question, and I kind of feel like, from my experience, what you can teach people from young, what you can teach are things like habits and questions. Because I think from young I've always had a lot of questions, and luckily for me, a lot of adults kind of left me to pursue those questions on my own. So going to the library or going out, reading, and just asking a lot of questions. And I don't think you need to teach young kids like the information per se, but I think it's really important to teach them like attitudes and mindsets. The difficulty is though, teaching them all these mindsets can backfire on them in a way that society and the education system, I'm not sure whether beyond Singapore, but I kind of feel like around the world maybe, education system isn't prioritizing the individual development of each student. Mostly, from what I know, a lot of education today is about producing maximum output for whatever input you could have at a minimum. And so if you raise a kid to be critical about a lot of things and to have a lot of questions and to practice a sense of awe and inspiration for the world around them, they're gonna have a very difficult time fitting in. And I think that's the conundrum that I guess I would feel if I ever become a parent, but I don't think I will. But I'm sure a lot of people are in that position where they probably want the best for their child, but if you want your child to be successful in society, then that kid probably has to conform as much as possible in order to secure a good enough life. So I kind of feel like what's really important personally for me to teach kids is to teach them to be critical, but this doesn't always mean that they benefit from it. So that's kind of like the sad part, I think. Do you feel like you could have learned at say 8 or 10 what you're learning now? Actually, if I talk to myself as a kid, I would be pretty amazed, because as a kid I had so much knowledge about the natural world. I don't know why, I was just obsessed. So I don't know, I guess actually kids are a lot wiser than adults. I mean, I sincerely believe that a lot of younger people are actually a lot more insightful and wise than adults, because as adults we've already kind of been numbed and dumbed down. I mean, those things rhyme. And I definitely felt a lot smarter when I was 18 than I do now. Do you meet people at your coffee house that you can have these types of conversations with? Actually, no. Yeah. At the cafe, I'm just really busy making drinks. It gets really crowded, and I'm just churning out drinks nonstop. So I really don't have time to talk. Yeah, and it's a very casual space. It's in the middle of a neighborhood, very residential area, so a lot of people come in with their kids. It's not really a place where you can have very deep conversations, I feel. Yeah. How was college for you? College was really fun for me. I had the greatest privilege of being able to attend a liberal arts education within Singapore. So I was able to really interrogate a lot of my, you know, internalized beliefs about Singapore and about the context I grew in with the help, with the tools and the techniques of a liberal arts education. And also at the same time with the benefit of being exposed to a very international community, because half of our batch are international students. Unfortunately, the school is going to be closing down, so it ran for a glorious length of like 10 years, 10 batches. You can go and Google it. It's the only liberal arts education in Singapore, and it's closing down. So it's pretty infamous. But I enjoyed it tremendously. It was a place where I could develop myself in all sorts of ways, like intellectually, creatively, I don't know, like socially, emotionally. It was really, really challenging. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna lie. It was really, really challenging. And I wasn't as academically inclined as I am now. Because back then I was prioritizing a lot of creative outputs and a lot of like social stuff. So I was dancing a lot in college. That was really fun. Yeah, so that's why I kind of feel like education is so important. Like an education that actually speaks to you is so profound, but that's not how we experience education in a lot of ways. And a lot of the ideas and the thoughts that I have on this channel is really all because of all the educations that I've been exposed to, but really because of the individuals and the outliers who have sort of really stayed true to the purpose of education. I really benefited from that. So when I was like 15 or 16, I had a literature teacher that taught us about feminism and taught us about feminist writers. That really changed my life. That really taught me that ideas about empowerment, like gender and women empowerment, it taught me about inequality. It taught me a lot about sexism and misogyny that I would have never thought about at that age, because I was from a girls' school. And you know, I was like, what do you mean I'm looked down upon as a woman? But that really prepared me for the world after graduating from a girls' school. And it's really because of that one teacher that decided to bring in that syllabus, even though it was not necessary, even though it wasn't part of the official syllabus, and actually could have backfired on us because we had to prepare for the exams. But she did it anyway. And afterwards, coming to the liberal arts education, where a lot of the professors and a lot of the people were prioritizing so much of the students' own understanding, not just getting the grades. Of course, the grades were important, but there was just so much emphasis on learning, questioning, so many things. And because of all of that, I think that's only why I can make content like this, where I can ask questions and talk about things in a more casual way, because that's what I've been able to experience as well. So yeah. Kids are so much smarter than they get credit for. Definitely. Yeah. Kids are actually really smart, and I really don't like it when people talk down to kids, because I remember when I was like 10 or 11, I had some pretty like complex thoughts, you know. I'm pretty sure everyone here has similar experiences where like you have moments where you knew that the adults were looking down on you and you used that to your advantage to get what you wanted. I'm pretty sure everyone had that experience in some way. Did you have a hard time motivating yourself to create your first video? Yes. I started with a booktube format, so that was easier for me because I just followed whatever formats were out there. So I did like a newbie video, then I did like a book tag, and I did like TBRs and hauls. Those were kind of formats that were already out there on the platform, so I just followed those formats. And if you're considering starting a channel or making content, you can start by finding an already established field and following some of the formats. This is also a great way for people to search your content when you don't have a kind of niche yet. So a lot of people actually commented on my newbie video, kind of introducing themselves and talking about their channels, which was great. And I would recommend that. Actually, I would recommend sort of doing some of these formats or some of these ideas that are already out there. People might not watch it, but you'll get familiar with like using the camera, editing, expressing yourself, and the video being uploaded. You may not have a lot of views because you're a small channel, but it's all really good practice to figure out what exactly you want to talk about later on. Yeah, so if you watch my earlier videos, they're all very booktube centric. Yeah, because that was what I was following and felt comfortable with at the time. I guess with content creating, you always have to start a bit smaller, like start with what you feel like you can accomplish, and to understand that no content can be perfect. I think when my first video, the video that first went more viral, which was the I Don't Dream of Labor video, when it became really popular, I had a few regrets about the video because there were a lot of things I wanted to cover, but I did not cover because I was not, I wasn't expecting anyone to watch the video, so I kind of just felt satisfied with the first, as in I was just satisfied with the video and I put it up. But as more and more people watched it and I rewatched it, and there were more things that I became dissatisfied with afterwards. So the fact with the platform is that once you upload stuff, you can't really take it back, or you can't really take it down. And this is kind of like the difficult area to navigate when you might say things that you mean in the past, and when you uploaded it, it made sense and it's what was, the most obvious given that context. But as time goes on, you're watching it again or rewatching it, or people might be watching it in a completely different context, and the ideas may not be true to yourself anymore. And the fact is that in real life, we allow this to some extent for people. Like, we might meet someone after a year, and if their ideas and opinions change, we kind of accept it more easily than if we see a content creator changing their ideas pretty drastically, maybe on political ideas or maybe on any sort of like, I don't know, any sort of ideas. I kind of feel like there's a general reluctance to accept it as easily as you might for a real person. So yeah, that's kind of like the major friction I feel when it comes to content creating is, yeah, that idea that you can't really take back, and that you're not really like like the content that you put out will stay there forever, and there's always going to be areas that you're going to be dissatisfied with, and the fact that you can never really control your audience's reactions to the work, which I kind of feel is the same as like if you're an artist and you want to produce any artwork. You look back on the artwork maybe 20 years ago and you hate it, but the artwork still has value for a lot of people even 20 years down the road, and it has value for you as a person looking back on what ideas you wanted to express in that time period. But because YouTube is a kind of social media platform, people might not extend the same kind of gracious thinking to your content. Yeah, at least that's what I feel. Yeah, gifted kid, mildly successful after college. Yeah, I really feel that identity crisis. So there was this Reddit thread in Singapore like a few months ago. It was asking teachers in Singapore about which students they thought turned out in a way that they didn't expect. And some teachers were like, okay, there are some kids that I thought would go on to get really high flying careers and earn a lot of money, but they're now just doing kind of like a desk job and earning a lower pay, but they consciously choose these jobs because they want better work-life balance. And I realized that like, yeah, life after school is a whole bunch of like question marks. And this is something I realized while working at the cafe, because one of the main reasons why I wanted to work at the cafe was because it was started by someone who wanted to do like a social enterprise or wanted to start a business for a social cause, who had sort of transitioned from a much more comfortable lawyer corporate job to running a F&B business that is actually really a lot of hard work, because this entrepreneur, like she's really hands-on, like she's really doing a lot of stuff. Like I see her every day doing the F&B work, and she did tell me that this is like, it's up to you whether you want to decide like what kind of work you want to do, no matter where you come from, and especially if people are expecting you to do a high paying job. Actually, this kind of work is really meaningful and provides enough for your well-being. It's the way she told me all that, and I realized like, yeah, it is possible. It's just that there's gonna be a lot of social friction. Yeah. College in America sucks if you aren't in STEM. Yeah, I mean, same here in Singapore. Yeah, everyone's just in STEM. Thanks for all the different recommendations. So TV show recommendation, Braun the Bridge, Swedish and Danish. Ooh, sounds really interesting. Tiffany Ferguson's Gifted podcast is really nice as well. Yeah, the idea called quadratron. So he actually invented a concept, like a theory that was an actual theory. I love that. Yeah, there's so many people out there working and living their life that have deep thoughts and visions. They're hidden from public life. Definitely. Previously I did work in a hawker store before. So the cafe started off from a hawker store, and if you don't know what a hawker store is, it's it's basically like an outdoor food court in Singapore. It doesn't have a very good reputation. Like I mean, that's where a lot of people get their very affordable food, but working there is not so desirable because it's hot, it's very cramped, there's a lot of oil, and it's seen as very low skill labor. And so I was working there for a bit, and I guess a lot of people were confused as to why I was working there, because generally it's like elderly people who can hardly make a living. Usually they're the ones that are working in such a place. But it gave me a lot of like perspective. Like, most Singaporeans would never really imagine themselves working in a hawker center. And for young people to be working in hawker centers, it's kind of considered taboo. I mean, if someone does, then they're usually on the news. So it made me realize that, like, yeah, it's actually so arbitrary, like the kinds of reputations that we assign to things, the kind of value and meaning that we assign to things. If you're serving food, it's honest work. I think that's all there is to it. Honest work should be paid fairly. I mean, any form of formal, like any form of honest work, farming the land, making food for people, teaching people, all these things should be adequately paid. Unfortunately, they all have a pretty bad reputation, all tied to these vocations. Personality good enough for creating content. Uh, if you want to create a camera personality, I really don't know. I never really made it very intentional about having a camera personality. I guess if you know me in real life, I tend to be a lot more chaotic and a lot more, I don't know, yeah, like I guess I'm a lot more chaotic in real life, but generally when I make video essays, because I'm talking about very serious topics, I tend to look more serious and mature. So that kind of unintentionally came out. But if it helps to have a camera personality, that's good as well. I know for some people it might be better to kind of more formally segregate their like their content, personality, and who they are in real life. You can do a part two. A part two of what? Were you a fan of Aya and Bambi? Yes. They were voguers, right? I mean, they vogued. Yeah, they were one of like the really popular and really famous Vogue dancers in Japan, and their style was really unique. Really enjoyed it. I am trying to learn Vogue though, but it's kind of hard to learn Vogue here. Are you afraid of being cancelled? I think this is a good question to ask any content creator. Um, okay, I can't find the word cancelled very ambiguous and broad. Accountability I'm a fan of. Say if I am saying something wrong, if I'm saying something that hurts people, harms people, belittles people, the public has every right to demand an apology and reparations and the appropriate amendment to my future behavior. I think these are all reasonable things to ask for, and that is it's obviously the good characteristic of the internet, where you can actually call for this kind of accountability. But the idea of, say, trying to bring someone down for a kind of like for things that are seen in isolation, I feel like that's very difficult. So I know that ContraPoints had an entire like long video about this. In that video, I think she did a pretty good job discussing the dynamics of canceling people online. And I did talk about this just now, about how when you create content online, people tend to perceive them in isolation. So people might see a video from 3 years ago, find it problematic, and start to question you and start to really boycott you, which is fine, but it's also, I kind of feel like it's not as easy as that. It's not as simple as that. And that we cannot just cancel people, but we must find ways to bring people to action. Because if you think about it, canceling people is just putting them down, shutting them up, and this just perpetuates this kind of very uneven power dynamic. It's just a matter of taking turns as to who will be silenced and who they will be silenced by. Yeah, So am I afraid of being cancelled? Yeah, I mean, definitely I'm always afraid of receiving comments that say that I did something wrong. I mean, obviously everyone is afraid of that. I mean, and I definitely am very afraid that I would ever be a problematic content creator. Like if my content would ever be seen as harming people, hurting people, I think that's like the worst thing that could happen. I think that's something that I want to avoid at all costs. But of course, if it ever happens, then it happens, and people have every right to, yeah, to ask me to address it. So I think it's a very normal fear. I think everyone has that fear. I guess it just seems more salient online, because that's what we're most exposed to on the regular, and it's the one that's the most dramatized. Yeah. As an introvert, was it ever weird for you to have people close to you watching your videos? Yes, definitely. Very weird. Very, very weird. I'm still not over it. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever be over it. Yeah. I think the weirdest part is because people who know me in real life know that I'm a lot more energetic and chaotic, but in my videos I seem very calm and collected, and to them they find it pretty funny that I have such a contrast. I mean, it's a balance. I definitely do think I can be calm and collected in real life as well, but that happens to be a lot more obvious in my content. Concept and history of capital punishment. Wow, actually, I feel like elementary school kids have the most morbid ideas. I once did an enrichment program for some, like some kids below the age of 12, and they were just like straight up bullying this smaller kid, and they would like gaslight him, this small kid, and I was just like, I was just so in shock that they were literally like gaslighting this guy, and using all sorts of psychological tactics to get their way, and I was like, what? Yeah, so kids are kind of freaky. Did I choose to work there for the experience? I have multiple reasons for working at this place. One is definitely the experience, because I am interested in one day being able to run my own business. It's always been a lifelong dream to have a bookstore cafe of my own. I don't know how long it will take me to pursue that, but I've always wanted to have a community space where people can come and find all sorts of books and enjoy a good cup of coffee, and just to find a safe space outside of home and school. That has always been my dream, I guess. So I guess one reason was, yeah, because that seemed like something that was quite closely aligned to what I wanted to achieve in the future. Another reason is, yeah, it was quite a good compensation compared to the market rate. I'm not gonna say the exact number, but it was slightly better than the market rate for F&B jobs. And third, it was a very great way for me to hone my barista skills. I'm not that great at baristaing, but it gave me a lot of agency, as even though I'm a part-timer. It gave me a lot of agency to deliver the drinks and to be front-facing and all that. So those are some of the few reasons why I decided to work for this person. Yeah, and I really enjoy it. It's just that I don't know whether this is something that I can really sustain as an income while I'm doing other things. Unfortunately, it's really not a lot. Yeah. No such thing as low skill essential labor. Yeah, I agree. Every work requires skill. I mean, it's oftentimes all these like food court, like hawker center stall owners, there are people who have been mastering the craft of making those dishes for years. And if you ask anyone to like, can you master that skill in like a year? It's almost impossible. Like, can you create the same fishball noodles as this uncle does? Probably not. But if you go into any corporate job, you can probably just figure out what kinds of emails you have to send within a week or so. I don't know which one is more skilled than the other. Yeah, low skill essential labor, I guess people consider it low skilled. I really don't think so. Part 2 to I do not dream of work. Oh yeah, I feel like I want to do that soon. I don't think I have synthesized enough ideas to make a much more significant second conversation to the I don't dream of labor trend. I have other ideas I want to explore a bit further before I make like a remake of that video, I guess. Yeah, you have to have thick skin to be a content creator. It's true. In the first few months when I started to get a lot of criticisms, from my like labor related videos, I was really beaten down by it. I just felt like, oh my god, I wasn't covering these ideas with enough nuance. Like, people are disagreeing with me. Some people sent me hate comments. I think I did receive some Insta DMs, like there was just like hate speech, and I was really shocked. But after a while I realized that yeah, a lot of these people were trying to project and trying to instigate things. But of course criticisms, I think I had a lot of trouble discerning what was constructive feedback and what was just comments that were just out there to get me. I'm better at that now, fortunately, because I think my audience has become a lot more like concrete after a few more videos. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for a lot of the people who come back and watch my videos, because I've been witnessing the conversations become a lot more consolidated and like nuanced and encouraging, as compared to the first video that sort of got out to a very general audience and a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way. And I think it's valid if people disagree. I think it's completely valid if people do not think the same way that I do. I think that's only natural. And the only thing I can do is just open up the conversation and get people to discuss things in the comment section, because every video, if you think about it, is incomplete. I'm only ever discussing things from a very narrow scope of my life experience and my opinions, and the things that I read, which can be very limited as compared to what other people have experienced and read about. So that's why I feel like the comment section is really a great place to really see how my content is resonating. And I think along the way, I feel like I've been able to get a better sense of how to make content that captures my ideas in a way that resonates better with people. So I haven't been receiving a lot of hate comments lately, and I think I'm grateful for that, obviously. No one really wants to start their day with, some random person just trying to spoil your day. Does degrowth go hand in hand with minimalism? Yeah. Old Shaolin philosophy. What Shaolin philosophy would you be referring to? Because I'm not so familiar with what that means specifically. But definitely I do think that minimalism has huge overlaps with the idea of degrowth. Degrowth is much more of an economic term. It's kind of applied in a lot more of a economic theory and policy sort of way, whereas minimalism is an aesthetic movement that is also now kind of like a lifestyle movement, and kind of more on the consumer and individual aspects of things. So slow living ties in a lot with minimalism, but definitely all these concepts super relevant to one another. So I would say degrowth, advocates for kind of like less growth, right? Sort of deprioritizing economic growth and prioritizing other metrics of well-being and productivity, which then correlates with ideas of slow living, which focuses on enjoying your day-to-day, enjoying intangible things, and that also ties with minimalism, which is about decluttering your life, focusing on the most important areas of life, which are, yes, the intangibles like time with family, personal goals, etc. But minimalism only really makes sense when contrasted to today's like excessively consumerist society, because if everyone was already being very like practical with their consumption, and if everyone was already prioritizing all these very intangible stuff, then there wouldn't be a movement called minimalism. Does that kind of make sense? Well, thank you for the donation. Is it called donation? Thanks so much. And thank you for being so active in the chat. You've really been making a lot of comments. Oh, okay. Something I said in my recent reading vlog about not wanting to impose your opinions on the viewers. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm really glad, because I really feel this a lot, because I am also a viewer of a lot of content creators, and I find myself in that cycle a lot, where like what I've said, I watch things before I even form an opinion about things, and I found that kind of like troubling, because then I started to recount to other people opinions of these content creators instead of my own opinions, and I realized, like, wait a minute, I haven't actually thought about this. Like, I haven't actually asked myself, like, what does this mean to myself, like now. Yeah, so that made me realize that, yeah, I didn't want to be that kind of figure to people who watch my videos, and that it's much more important to get people to sort of question things, but also normalize the process of getting to things, like not having an answer for everything. But of course, we shouldn't always be in gray zones all the time, but it's always good to normalize the process of figuring things out and coming to your own conclusions quite naturally, while considering a lot of things. Yeah, so I'm really glad that that intention came through. Yeah. And thank you so much for saying that I do a good job at talking about subjects that I bring up. What pop song is playing in your head while you're talking? Let me see, what song did I want to recommend? Do I want to recommend today? Let's see. Oh, actually, there's this song that I've been enjoying a lot. It's by this Korean rapper called Loco. Don't know whether anyone knows, but it's a song called Just Like This, featuring the singer George. Let me try and find the music video for it. And I love it so much. Yeah, I was wondering whether I should move this to Twitch, but on this streaming platform that I'm on right now, it only allows me to stream to one platform. Um, and I realized that, yeah, as in after a few streams, a lot of people are on YouTube, and it's harder to transition people to Twitch, because YouTube is still the most like easier to access for a lot of people. Um, yeah, and I don't really know much about Twitch etiquette. I've been told that there's quite a lot of etiquette in Twitch. But yeah, thanks for bringing it up again. I should consider it again. Doing Twitch streams. I was figuring out how I should handle Twitch and YouTube. Wow, thank you. Yeah, if you have any videos to share with everyone, feel free to link them so we can check them out as well. Yeah, some minimalists that live in 10K month apartments. It's so true. I hate it when minimalists are like, yeah, I earn so much money by being frugal, but like they are already earning a lot of money from their salary in the first place. Like, oh, minimalism made me rich, but they're actually making money off landlording. Restream. Okay. Wow, okay. Okay, yeah, I guess I'll have to. I have to research the streaming again. Restream. Okay, got it. Yeah. Top tier designer items. I can already imagine picture in my head. Going to Twitch, you have to build up your audience over there. Yeah, I guess that is a pretty valid concern. Kind of feel like that would be entirely of a different audience. And Twitch has a very different like audience interaction vibe. I kind of enjoy YouTube lives though, because it kind of just feels like a live YouTube video. I mean, that's literally what it is, but but it feels a lot more straightforward. Like, it's not as customizable, but yeah. Would y'all be interested in me playing games though? I feel like I'm a pretty bad gamer. Do you have to be good at gaming for you to be a good streamer? Oh, okay. Thanks for watching from Poland. Yeah. Video poker. Diet Coke. That's so funny. It's so true though. I kind of feel like a lot of people opt into the minimalism trend without realizing that so many people who have had to live very frugal lifestyles because of their constraints were already living minimalist lives. I mean, you shouldn't make frugality like an aesthetic. For a lot of people, it's a matter of survival, and I kind of feel like it's kind of almost like a mockery when people are like, "Hey, look, I'm a really rich minimalist." Yeah, I don't know. uh, do I play games? I sometimes play games. Oh wow, I just realized you could see this. I scalded myself yesterday. The espresso machine was really hot. I didn't know it would be so visible. But in case anyone was wondering. um, do I play chess? No, unfortunately I don't. I don't know, I kind of feel like I should know how to play chess. Is it common knowledge to know how to play chess? Just chatting section. True, true, true. I guess I could go into just chatting section. I don't have to be good, I just have to be entertaining. Wow. Entertaining. Okay, that's a high barrier to entry right there. How can someone travel for free cheaply on a minimalist lifestyle? Do you see traveling as a necessity? I actually don't really like to travel. Okay, let me just clarify. I like the act of going to new places and having this sense of discovery and awe. But I don't like being a tourist. Like um I don't like having to look at touristy things and to, like, I don't have to travel the world, you know. Like, to me, it is really important to be able to have a sense of awe wherever you are. So, to me, if you ask, like, is traveling necessary? To have a traveler's mindset is, like, super important. I always try to have that. But I don't have to go overseas to have that. And oftentimes, like, a lot of tourists don't realize that they're not actually having a traveler's mindset when they go overseas, but instead they're seeking escapism, they're seeking like a refuge from their everyday life. And in that sense, I don't think that is the purpose of traveling. I don't think you should be traveling with the purpose of trying to get away as far as possible, but rather to really learn and understand more about things you've never encountered before. So in that way, I don't think traveling is necessary. I actually don't miss traveling as much because I enjoy discovering things around me anyway. But if I can travel and I can adopt this actual traveler's mindset, then sure, I would love to travel, but I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I guess I kind of feel like I'm more keen on staying on YouTube for a longer time. Kind of feels like it's more of like for the audience that already watches my YouTube videos. It'll be easier to reach everyone from here. Yeah. But I guess you know, I would want to challenge myself by trying some streams on Twitch someday. But we'll see. Learn how to play chess stream on Twitch. I would be terrible. I can really sense it. I kind of feel like I'm really terrible at games. I don't know how many of you know, but I'm an Aries zodiac sign, so I'm like, not to be reductionist, but I have a high degree of impatience and an intolerance of losing, and all of that kind of adds up to being very bad at games. But I'll try. I mean, I play a lot of Animal Crossing because there's no competition. Intro chess, no. Please don't make me play chess. Do I have any favorite movies? Good question. Do I have favorite movies? Nothing in particular comes to mind, but I really loved this documentary series called Ugly Delicious that was hosted by David Chung, I think, on Netflix. And I really enjoyed street food as well. Documentary on food. I don't know, I just really enjoy documentaries on food. Yeah. I find it very intriguing. Movies though. Do I have any movies? I guess not. Yeah, but I would recommend Street Food. I love it. It's such a good series. Yeah, reading a book is equivalent to traveling. Yeah, I agree. Wow, all these fire signs in the chat. Recommend films. Oh, the other day I came across this film like recommendation. I haven't watched it yet, but it sounds really interesting. And it's called Demystifying. And it's a documentary film about people finding environmentalists and activists figuring out new solutions to things. It was published in 2015. Let me try and find the book. The hmm. Oh, wait. Yeah, I found this film. I haven't watched it, but I think it'll be really interesting. And I think animated films wise, like Studio Gilby, is it pronounced Gilby? Ghibli? Ghibli? I can't pronounce this. But they have this film called Princess Mononoke. Mononoke? Yeah, and I kind of feel like it has a lot of environmental themes in it, which would be interesting to watch as well. Yeah, but solar punk films, I don't have any specific recommendations. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess a lot of the Studio Gilby movies are quite environmental in nature. No, I've never watched this white guy that lives in Vietnam and eats street food there. What? That's so specific. What's my favorite fried chicken place? I don't really eat fried chicken anymore now that I'm moving to a plant-based diet. But let me think about this. There's this really good vegetarian Korean restaurant in Singapore. I don't know whether you live in Singapore, but it's called Dehua Vegetarian Restaurant. So it's really good. I guess previously if I ate fried chicken, wow, I usually just eat it at home. But guilty pleasure would be KFC, I guess, a long time ago. But I don't think they have a vegan option, so too bad. What is your favorite Singaporean movie? Good question. Let me try and dig it from my memory. Well, I wish I put it somewhere. There was this movie that I watched, and it was about the death penalty in Singapore. It was pretty. It's pretty salient now because there is a very like high profile case right now that's being debated with regards to the death penalty in Singapore. It's not abolished in Singapore, and it's up to debate a lot nowadays because there was someone that has been certified to have certain intellectual disabilities who had been coerced into smuggling drugs, and the Singapore law kind of gave a death penalty to this person, but now the family's in the process of appealing this case. So that's actually really really I guess relevant now. Let me try and find. Okay. Natural minimalist. That's a very interesting term. I wish I could dance better. I feel like everyone can dance. Ooh. Definitely, I'll check out Aya and Bambi. Best ever food review show. That is so unoriginal. Such an unoriginal name. I definitely do think that veganism is gonna be the standard diet in the future. Unfortunately now, okay, it's better than last time, but discussions around veganism is still a very moral one. However, I do think we will be moving towards veganism as the default, and then eating meat will be the moral conversation that we'll have. I kind of feel like we're moving towards that already. A lot of young people are already shifting towards a plant-based diet, or at least are being a lot more conscious about their food choices. So I feel like it's just a matter of time before the debate is around meat consumption rather than switching to veganism. Now it's not as contested because of how normalized it is to have a very meat-heavy diet. But I do think it will be the default. Recently, this company called Stuffed, I don't know whether they have it in other countries, but they are now completely removing beef from their offerings and will only be offering the impossible meat. And this was a pretty, I guess, really bold move for a brand that is pretty common in Singapore. A lot of people probably buy from them quite a lot. So I do think it makes a pretty strong statement that they're gonna be pulling beef off the menu. Oh, video essays about environmental politics of Miyazaki. That would be great. Please share the links. I would love to watch that. Do you plan on buying a land and practicing some permaculture? Wow, I don't know. I don't think I can afford that. I don't think I can afford buying a land. But I do have dreams of being able to have a mini food forest. I won't even call it a food forest. I do hope to be able to grow most of my vegetables in the future, but it's kind of hard to do that now. 14 days in May. Interesting. Oh man, okay, that sounds like a pretty difficult thing to watch. Yeah, I mean, take your time with like trying to go plant-based. I don't think you should rush yourself too hard. What's most important is that you figure out what your body needs and don't feel too guilty about eating meat products. Like, take your time, but also don't be too complacent. I guess that's the only advice I can give. Yeah, I kind of feel like if you want to go vegan, it's much more important to try and be more vegetable focused rather than trying to find alternatives. Hi. Asian peas awake now. Okay. Yeah, I kind of feel, yeah, Impossible is still really expensive now. Hopefully all these like alternatives, they won't focus too much on being meat replacements, but rather be just part of like a vegetable veggie based diet. She just woke up and she's being so affectionate right now, right? You have gunk in your eyes. Did you sleep well? I guess you did. You have stuff in your eye. Thanks for complimenting my cat. This is Asian P. I don't know whether I can hear her purring. She's purring pretty loudly now. Hi. Oh, her bell. Ah, I see. Yes, I think it's much more important that you figure out what works for your diet, rather than trying to go like straight into a diet that doesn't work for you. And I feel like it's more about going against the dominant meat narrative in our diets as compared to like omitting meat completely. So I think it's about trying to have a society that's less centered on meat consumption, which I think is the main goal. Because I know for a lot of people in a lot of cultures, meat consumption is like a super huge part of their culture and their cuisine. It's also not fair to tell them to completely like remove those things. Yeah. I don't know, she's being so affectionate. Are you hungry? Is that why? Are you hungry? I don't think you're hungry. Yeah, drugs are extremely illegal here. We have a death penalty for that. I've never tried psychedelic drugs, and I don't think I'll ever get the chance to. She's called Agent P, so I'm gonna say hi. Hi, this is Agent P. She's like a 5-month-old kitten. Right? Yeah. Yeah, she always comes at the end of my stream. She's so punctual, I guess. Oh, oh, what do you do? Yes, Agent P from Phineas and Ferb. You're right, you caught the reference. Oh, hi. Because she's very sneaky, which is why she's named after Agent P. Hi, why are you being so sweet? Hmm? Thanks for loving my cat. She is very deserving of all the love, right? Do I have any interest in travel to Europe or the US? I don't think anytime soon. I think traveling now is actually really difficult. But I do have a few friends that are kind of keen on traveling to Europe. But I don't know how possible that is. I really don't know. Yeah. Agent P. Yeah. Do I like Tsai Ming Liang movies? I've never heard of that. Is it a director? Oh, hi. Please recommend some films I can check out from this person. Tsai Ming Liang. Oh, CJ the X. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I should try watching. Oh, we're going to the Philippines soon. Oh. Don't think I've watched any of their films. Well, I hope everything goes well when you're moving to Philippines. Are you like traveling there? Moving there? Do I play any musical instruments? I used to learn the piano when I was younger, but I had a lot of trauma with piano, so I don't really play it anymore. Yeah. Steven Chow films. Nice. Ah, visiting family. Yeah. That's really nice. I'm so glad you're able to do that. So stay safe. Hope your journey goes well. And yeah, quality time with family. That's like super important. Okay. Oh, a lot of movie recommendations in today's chat. Why you keep purring? Are you very happy? Are y'all able to hear her purring like a lot? Hmm? Okay. Wow, okay. So many movie recs. Okay, I'll definitely be checking all these out after. That's great. I've been like figuring out like what I should be watching because I think I read a lot of books and it'll be nice to couple that with a few videos, as in a few movies. Also, you can hear her purr. Is it irritating? I didn't think she'd purr so loudly. She has such a small body though. Can we move her away then? Asian P, you're being very loud. Do you know that? Know that? Do you know you're being very loud? Hmm? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why do you always come into my live streams? Oh, there was this one time where Asian P went after a lizard. But she was so confused by the lizard that she just followed it around. But she didn't attack it. And yeah, that was it. She hasn't actually caught any cockroaches. But she did once catch a fly and ate it. Yeah, it's a Phineas and Ferb reference. Because out of the litter of kittens, she was the one that was the most like adventurous and also the most like stealthy. Like she would really go and hide in corners without anyone noticing. So that's why she was named after the very mysterious and very stealthy super spy. Right? Okay, she's back to purring. I think she's still really small, so she doesn't really know how to catch like cockroaches. Hi, you're back. And this stream is just me and Agent P. I'm so glad so many of you like her though. Because she's so cute. Okay, but as a lot of my long-time viewers know, when Agent P comes onto stream, it's usually time for me to end the stream because it usually means it's time to feed her. So, no, my kitty is not vegan, unfortunately. It's not very ethical to put your pet on a vegan diet because nutritionally they need a lot of stuff that is from meat, so fish and chicken. Yeah, fortunately Agent P, she's not too wild about like eating different kinds of meat. She just bounded off. Oh my god, that's so cute. If you babysit your friend's baby kitten, that's so cute. I would love to do that. But okay, this shall be the end of my stream. Thank you so much for joining me in this spontaneous stream. Yeah, I didn't announce it beforehand, but I'm so glad a lot of you were able to make it. I will make more scheduled streams in the future, and if you have things that you want me to discuss in streams, like let me know. I have a few ideas for like my video essays, but I don't have a lot of plans yet for streams other than general discussions and like maybe that intro chess game. Maybe we might do that. We'll see if I'm up to humiliate myself in front of everyone. So thank you everyone. Yeah, take care, stay safe wherever you are. Remember to hydrate and remember to get enough rest, sleep well. That's really important. Yeah, and take care of yourself. I hope Agent P's purrs was like a good calming end to this whole stream. So see you next time. Yeah. Thank you so much for staying. Take care.